So this tank I set up probably a month and a half or so ago. It's got some new additions. It's basically the combination of two separate tanks. Like this was a 20 gallon here, oh, I'm sorry, a 10 gallon here, and then maybe like a 17 gallon here. And I basically combined the two to get one 29 gallon tank. And so it's borderline overstocked. The fish are small. I mean, some of the fish are still small. The little neon tetras are small. I have about 9 red eye. I believe 5 black tetra. That's a white tip, but he turned red. I don't know if the males turn red. Got 1 bristle nose. He's new. We got maybe 4 bronze Cory, and then 3 of the zebra. I don't know how to say their name properly. And then maybe about 6 guppies. 2 of them, and then 4 little baby guppies that are new. And then and we got 1 beta, really pretty blue beta, and then we have 1 algae eater, the small one. Because of where I live, I don't need a heater. It's actually the opposite. Even in the winter, the tank will never drop below acceptable, and then in the summer, sometimes it's a fight to keep the temperature down. But I combined these tanks to make room. Their old tanks are taking up where the 75 gallon is gonna go. And this was also an experiment to see if I can run an under gravel while simultaneously getting stem plants kind of going. The under gravel's not on bubbles. It's not on an uplift. It's on the 207. So the under gravel's being ran by the 207, and that's the outlet. And I put substrate in bags, soil in bags, and that's kind of why it doesn't show up, but the back of the tank is so high that that's pretty much where all the bags of soil are, the mesh bags. And so I got, I'd say, a good 5 or 6 inches of gravel height. And I basically put a bag under the lily, which was from the old aquarium and was kind of used up. It used up the bulb, and it's kind of coming back. It's actually sort of, I'm glad it's slow-ish, so I don't have to pull lily pads out, every few days. It's almost kind of like the perfect sort of temperament. Some of these are from the old tank, and it did very, very well until I overcut it. So that's another thing too, is you probably want to give some time between cutting and new growth, just to not set the pad back too much. And then I put the Amazon swords, that's above ground growth. So we'll see what happens if they establish in the back there. And that's kind of what these blank spots are, sort of waiting to see if the Amazon will come in. I just left that option open for the under gravel there and just put a cap over it. But right by a window, which I just covered recently. So it's been getting a lot of, not direct sunlight, but enough sunlight to sort of create an algae situation. And I have a technique for getting rid of that. It involves using peat moss. Look at the bristle nose. Using peat moss, some of the really fine peat moss. Oh, he likes it. And you just let it loose into the water column, and then it naturally sticks to this kind of algae, and it sort of melts it. It's really interesting. You should try it one day. But yeah, so the plants are suffering from some kind of too much algae like this. This is kind of recent, and then this big bush. So I've been putting more and more shrimp in an attempt to. But it's interesting. They just kind of cultivate really clean algae. They're like gardeners, and they pick some stuff and leave other things. So it's interesting. It's all green. It's not decaying. But yeah, it's not ideal. A lot of this extra algae here has been recent. So yeah, it's something to work on. I'll show you the filters real quick. So I got the 207 here, and it's basically just connected right to that uplift tube. And it's a pretty good connection. It's not perfect, but well, actually that is perfect, because that comes from the UV filter, and the UV filter is the 5/8. It's the bigger pipe, a little bigger than this, and it fits nice and snug right into the 1-inch uplift. So that's perfect. And then the elbow from the spray bar makes a really nice inlet. And I can actually raise that. There's room to raise that so that it doesn't have to be that low, and you can kind of barely see it, or just get different lily pipes. And then this is my old school cream of the crop Magnum 350 with the micron filter. The camera's picking up on, I think, some fine water bubbles from the cavitation of the filter. So here's the Magnum 350. Chugging away. And inside that pre-filter is the pleated micron filter. So I love these filters. That's 35 watts. And then right now, this is the moon lighting from the Hager. I'm not exactly sure how to say that. The Hager lighting. It's more yellow than this is picking up. Just ever so slight, like an incandescent yellow. Very maybe traditional incandescent aquarium lighting. It's really nice. It has a nice nostalgic night light kind of feel. I know it's coming across more white in the video, but I really like their yellowish green moonlight. For the night light. I have it on to enjoy the tank from about 5 p.m. to about 10 p.m. And that's probably contributing to a lot of the algae growth. I'm just overlighting, and there's quite a bit of nutrition, fertilizer, in the water column, and then of course the window, the light coming from the window right there, which I just got curtains to sort of black out, but and I don't overfeed. I feed as much as they'll eat, pretty much, and I try not to feed them if they're not eating. And I try to offer food throughout the day, as long as I'm here to do it, because I won't always be home to, you know, watch them eat. And this tank, the philosophy of this tank is more of a habitat than it is aesthetics. I mean, I had to reuse a lot of the material anyway, just because I had it, and just because it was kind of a part of their previous setup. You know, I wanted them to be able to enjoy that, but I try to create as much interest from their perspective as I can. And this is, I'm actually kind of happy the way it came out from that perspective of what I had available. And my goal is to get a 75 gallon and then kind of keep this maybe as a grow out tank for plants, and maybe, you know, get rid of some of the rocks and, you know, some of the structures, and just make it a little bit more simple, and have, so I can kind of cultivate and manage plants. And I guess I could populate it with something, but I just want to give them the better, you know, the best quality they can have. And if that's 75 gallons, I may move them. But, you know, it's a good group of fish. You know, some of them are new, and so that keeps things exciting, I think, for them. The little baby guppies kind of keep it active, and sort of the little baby neon tetras, they sort of keep the excitement for some of the older fish that, you know, have been around. But yeah, it's a good group. Some, you know, they're a little more skittish. I think my cat was bothering them at one point, and that kind of really set them back. But the newer fish don't scatter, you know, when I feed them as easily as some of the older fish. And so, yeah, the tank is coming around. Yeah, thank you for checking out my tank.